So I wanted to showcase how would I do a similar problem to the ones that I posted, so you guys have something to reference. And so what I want to do is I want to set up an array as, of strings with different strings in it with different lengths for each of those words, and I want to be able to single out the longest word and print it out. So decided to do an array of strings. So we'll have coffee, we'll have tea, we'll have lemonade, we'll have milk and water. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I know that I'm going to end up with a single word that is the longest, and I want to be able to save that into its own variable. So my long word here, I'll set equal to the empty string, and then I know that I want to go through each item in the array to find this long word and reset long word to a proper value. So we'll set up our for loop. So I want this for loop to run as many times as there are elements in my array. So we'll just reference the length property of the array, and this will get us what we need. All right, so next thing, we want to compare the lengths of the words. So coffee, for example, has a 6 letters in it. Tea has 3, lemonade has 8, milk has 4, and water has 5. Now, how do I tell my program that's the case, and how do we compare them? Well, one thing we can do is inside an if statement, we can compare the property length of a string, which gives us back the number of characters in it, which is very helpful, and it is very similar to an array. As you can see, strings and arrays are semi-related programming wise. So I can say, hey, if the drinks at I, so if the word in the string in the array at index I, if the length of that string is greater than my current long word's length, then I know I have the wrong long word, and I need to reset it to whatever is larger than it. So one way to do that is just call the equals, long word equals my new longer word. And so this is it. that's all we have to do. And let me explain this why. So long word currently has a length of 0 because it's an empty string. So it's going to come here, it's going to look at coffee in the first iteration. It's going to say, is the length of coffee greater than nothing, or greater than 0 rather? Yes. So it's going to reset our long word to coffee. And then it's going to come back around again. The second iteration is going to look at tea, and it's going to say, is the length of tea greater than the length of coffee? So does tea have more letters or characters than the string coffee? And the answer is no. So it's going to skip the if statement. It's going to come back around again and compare lemonade. It's going to say, hey, does lemonade has more characters than the string coffee? And the answer is yes. So it's going to come back into the if statement again and reset our long word to lemonade this time. And it's going to come back around again for milk. It's going to say milk is not longer than lemonade, and it's going to come back around one last time for water, and it's going to tell that water is still not longer than lemonade, and so I expect to see lemonade to come through. So let's see if it works. Let's run it. And we have lemonade. So let's not be content. Let's add hot chocolate, which will be longer, and we expect it to be our new long word. And there it is. Now you may be asking, well, what about the smallest word? Can you show us how to do that? And I'll say, sure, I'll show you how to do that, but you'll see this a little more challenging, and I'm going to explain that as we go. And that's why I'm also showing you how to do that, because I acknowledge this is a little bit more challenging. So I want to keep on keeping track of my long word. I don't want to throw that away, but I do want to create a new if statement to check for the length of the smaller word. So I wanna see if something similar would work. So I'll say, hey, if the current word that we're looking at in the loop at index I, if the length, I'm not gonna say greater than this time, but I'm gonna say less than. It's less than, not my long word, rather my small word. If it's less than my small word, and there you go. If it's less than my small word's length of characters, then I want to reset my small word because I want to have the smallest word out there. And this is just like our long word, so this should work, right? Because the logic is similar. We're looking for small words this time around, so we have a less than instead of a greater than. So let's see if it works. Logic says it will, right? Let's print it out. And let's give it a try. So I expect to see T. T is the smallest one. And we get nothing. Why do we get nothing? Well, we get nothing because this is an empty string. And an empty string has a length of 0. So if you come here and you see coffee, it's a length of 6. Is 6 less than 0? No. Then it comes back around, it skips this, never runs this, and then it goes to T. Is a length of T which is 3 less than 0? No. And it skips this again. And it never ever runs this line here because no matter how small the word is, it's not going to be less than 0. So one thing we can do to fix that is we can say, okay, I don't want to compare my empty string because nothing's going to be smaller than that. So I want to make sure that what the first time that the for loop runs, which is when the I is 0, I want to make sure that I'm setting this small word to to the first word in the array, so that we can actually compare the words in the array. And so I would just set it to my index of I, which I know to be 0, but I still want to put the I here. And so it'll make sure that it sets to coffee, and then it'll be able to compare coffee to tea and realize that tea is less than coffee. So what'll happen is it'll come here the first time around. It'll say, this is the first time I'm running my loop. It'll set small word to the first item in our array, which is coffee. And then it'll do this, and it'll come here and say, hey, is the length of coffee less than the length of coffee? Because at this point, small word and drinks is the same word. And now it's not going to come in here because they're the same length, but that's fine. But this line here allows us to actually compare elements in the array, which is what we want to do. If we just use the empty string, it'll never happen. So now I expect to see T, and there it is. And if I add it, let's say there's a drink called B for whatever reason, and we run this, and now I expect to see B come up. And there it is. So this Find Long Word, that's the name of our project. This is posted, you guys, so you can see it along with this video, and you can reference it. And if you have any questions, you can let me know. Thank you.